All right, good afternoon. My name is Jay with Section 8 Consulting. Hopefully you guys can hear. Let me know if you hear the sound well. We just got a new X mic to help us out. So, introductions. My name is Jay Roulette. I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. I've been helping people navigate the system with Section 8 for a number of years. And today we're going to discuss the Phoenix, Arizona Housing Authority. It's an interesting topic because they're going to reopen. Here's the problem. Out of 16,000 people, only 2,200 responded. That means that virtually 12,000 people got purged and never even answered the phone. Now, considering the facts of this, I'd have to say that something critically went wrong. The number should never be that low. In fact, when we look at this, 16,000 people on the city's waiting list through back in March. Housing Department figured put it closer to 14. And then after sending letters and updates to those, only 2,200 applicants responded. And, when you purge that many people, I have to wonder if fundamentally something failed. But they did attempt to reach out to HUD and the city council to see what some resolutions are. So let's talk about what's going to happen. Next month, they're going to open up the waiting list. This will not be first come, first serve. It's not like kindergarten. The first person in the lunch line gets to, get lunch. Everybody will have an equal opportunity. But based on this, I think that the numbers are pretty disparaging. And I think that if you're wise, I would list multiple phone numbers, emails, and addresses the way that so that you have a way to ensure your application gets through. I would suggest that looking at these numbers, that virtually anybody that applies in August will likely have a really good chance of getting this voucher simply because there doesn't seem to be a lot of interest. People are more interested in applying rather than answering their phone. That goes down to the mentality of most people cannot be bothered to answer their phone. They want to send it to voicemail. And I can tell you right now, the housing authority is not going to play games. You send them the voicemail, that likely will result in you being purged, and that'll be the end of the game. So I just let you know if you've got a bunch of software installed on your phone to block calls, the screen, you don't want to play that game with the housing authority. They'll just simply purge you, move on, and forget about you. Based on industry practice and discussion with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which funds the program, Phoenix plans to reopen the pre-application process in August, more than likely the first week of August. And I would imagine that most people find the results within 30 days. And then thereafter, timeframes do range, but I would suggest if you are selected to receive the voucher, that it would be somewhere in the arena of 30 to 90 days to process paperwork. And that's pretty standard. Only in the most rare situations when it run up to 5 months or 6 months. The computer program will randomly place people on a list and for the application submitted, and that opportunity will not follow the first served model. So, in other words, first come, first served won't matter. Voucher holders typically pay 30% of the income towards the housing costs and subsidies over the rest. And voucher can be used for private rentals, and this is not for project-based housing. Okay, you go pick the place. If the landlord accepts it, your request for tenancy, RTFA, then you're good to go. The federally funded program is meant for households making less than 50% of the area median income. For example, the income limit for the household of one is $32,750, and for a family, it would be $44,150 a year. Phoenix currently has received more than 7,000 housing vouchers. That means there's 5,000 collecting dust this month while they wait to roll it out for August. What do I always preach? Preferences. These are the things that make your case fundamentally more important or are going to determine whether or not you get this quickly or slowly. But at this point, I would suggest that likely if you applied in August, then you'd probably have that voucher probably within 30 days because there simply isn't enough adequate people to even receive it. It's a very unusual circumstances. Now, the preferences applicants will be selected from the waiting list based on selection preference, for which they qualified in accordance with the PHA's hierarchy of preferences. These are the things that will be applicable. Preference number one, any length of time where you lived in the county. So you get a small boost for living in the county or working in the county. If you are homeless or a domestic violence victim, and domestic violence suggesting that you've had an incident, mental abuse, physical abuse, stalking, or otherwise being defrauded by a partner that you're intimate with, cannot be friends, families, or neighbors, must be somebody you're in love with or dating in the last 30 days, then likely that would be counted. Those of you that are 62 years of age and older, those of you that are disabled, let's talk about disabilities. Disabilities does not have to meet the same standard as what the Social Security Administration requires. Many of you are familiar that if you receive or want to apply for a disability check, that is a federal agency called Social Security. They have a very high standard. You go see a judge, you prove your case. HUD is a different federal agency, thus its rules of disability are much lower. Needless to say, if in fact you receive a disability payment, that automatically qualifies you. Now, HUD's terms for disabilities are much lower again, and can be a number of things. So, as suggested, if you have a mental health problem or a physical problem that would last greater than 12 months, then likely you would qualify for some preference as being disabled. And of course, they would want to have a letter they would give you to take to your doctor, physician, or psychiatrist. And then they would make the determination there of whether or not your disability would last greater than 12 months. Anybody that's a United States veteran, and do keep in mind, veterans, that when dealing with the housing authority, you may also be pushed in and navigate through a program called HUD BASH, BASH. So it's dual run program for our military veterans with honorable discharges. Preference 5, participating in state funded job training program. In other words, you're living in the state, and but I don't see how that would actually be a high preference. Who are employed for wages. Look, it's important to understand you cannot get vouchers unless you are employed or have a source of income. Source of income would mean that if you're not working, then a Social Security check, a disability check, survivor benefits, investments. Maybe you're doing hair and nails. As long as it's a legitimate business, you're earning wages. Maybe it's Uber, McDonald's. Maybe you're a college student, but you're being paid to work on the university campus. All those things could be applicable in your situation, provided that you do make sure you meet the income ratios. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Information needed to apply: the names of all members of the household, including children, from birth on up. The date of birth for all the participants of the composition of the household, Social Security numbers, or eligible non-citizen information for at least one household member. In other words, you have dual membership. Maybe you came here because you're from Ukraine, and other situations where you've been granted a temporary residence in the United States or permanent residence of the United States. Now, do keep in mind that if your arrival is from Mexico, that it would need to be permanent residence legally here. Household income, as stated, contact information, and what would be applicable is, again, email, address, telephone number. All right, let's talk about income limits for the household composition of people that are age 18 and up. Yeah, now the mark you're really trying to hit is what they call extreme low income. So there's 3 tiers: extreme low income, and then just moderate income. Extreme low income gives you a higher preference. For one person, it's 15,000. For two persons, 18,310. 3 persons, 23,030. And for 4 persons, 27,750. On the high side of this, the maximums would be 39,950 for one person, 45,650 for 2, and 51,350 for 3. Now, many of you are going to inquire about, well, I inherited some money from grandma and other things. That really does depend. I would say reach out to the housing authority, or at least talk to a consultant that understands this process. That being said, I posted a link. Now, that link's going nowhere. It's not up and running yet. You want to save the link, and you want to keep your eye on that link and the website for that state, to ensure that when they make the announcement for August, that you get it done. Many times they'll open up that waiting list through that link. It's 12100 0100 server time, or they may choose to open it at normal standard hours at 8 or 9 a.m. in the morning. And it doesn't matter if it's first come, first serve. What matters is you get it in, and you don't need to be first, okay? Beyond that, guys, I would say to you that this is probably one of the better chances. In fact, we got a couple clients here that we're working with through casework, and I think this would be an appropriate situation to pick up a voucher, and what fundamentally is a complete failure of the housing authority there to actually get even 14% of the people and their applicants to accept the voucher. So what we have now left is 5,000 vouchers, and nobody seems to want them, or they just can't be bothered to pick up the phone. I would say to you, this is probably the perfect storm for getting a voucher and getting it quickly. In most cases, we look at a sample of a place like Miami, where 1/4 of the population of the city, which was 90,000 people in the city and 25,000 applied, only 30,000 vouchers were, 5,000 vouchers were issued. It was heavy competition. This is what we call a zero-sum game, where there's virtually no competition, and likely even the person with virtually no preferences would likely be granted a voucher, depending on how well this is marketed and advertised. Well, guys, that being said, I put up some information in the description for the linkage and so on, our company information, if you need assistance with navigating the system. Again, our company is here as a method. If all your personal efforts have failed and you need help or have questions, this is a situation where you may reach out to us. But I would tell most of you to do your best. Try contacting the PHA or housing authority for that area. Reach out to HUD, call 211, do all the necessary things. And if you still find yourself in a situation where you're unable to get what you need, or you're in a desperate or dire situation, then and only then would be good to look into whether or not working with a consultant or a company like mine would be beneficial to you. You are under no circumstances to pay anybody, whether through a website or company, to be on a waiting list, or to give out private information and other things, okay? So I want to be clear about that. We have a lot of websites that are coming out of Russia and China, and their goal is to get your private information and then, of course, take out loans in your name and other things. There's a lot of scams running on. So I would say that due diligence is required, especially when dealing with any type of consultant or company and related to the subject matter. I have a long-standing reputation. It speaks for itself, so I'm not really concerned for myself, so I'm just warning most of you. Also, if you do receive a voucher, do be aware that there are nefarious people rolling around Craigslist that will invite you to a big office building and want a money order or something like that, and they'll walk in one door and out the back door, and you'll never see your money again. Look, guys, be careful, okay? We live in desperate times. We just came through a pandemic, inflation. People are desperate these days. Don't ever make decisions without making sure you've checked out all the facts, okay? I think this is a really good deal, and I will be honestly preaching pretty hard about this. And these vouchers are available to anybody in America. You don't necessarily have to live in Arizona. Many of you could potentially receive the voucher and then later port it with or without actually surviving a 12-month lease. So this does, anytime federal programs are funded, like a voucher, everybody in the U.S. is entitled to go after them, whether you live there or not. So I just wanted to dispel that rumor. Well, guys, I've kind of enjoyed talking with you guys. This is intended to be a very short and brief video, and we will see you potentially tomorrow. All right, bye-bye for now.